questions, because then I can actually take you to another example which could be closer home. Questions till now? Any questions till now? Okay. So now we do take another example, say cake making process. So cakes and pastries, these days people like, there are very small cakes also, big cakes also, one person cake and 5-person cake, and then huge cakes. So cakes different events occasions पे आजकल बहुत widely बुलाए जाते हैं, are purchased. But those of you who have baked the cakes know that the process of making a cake, the baking a cake, is a slow process, and there is a lot of wastage involved in making cakes, because some shape would get deformed, you cannot really have a flat top at all times, and so on. So there is a kind of challenge in the cake making process, and which we want to take care of. We say that the productivity of the process is low because of the slow baking of the cake, and that shape giving thing comes into picture because there are defects like cracks that could appear in the cake. So just a quick diff check. Have any one of you baked cakes at home or something like that?
Yes, sir. I always.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So then you can actually relate to this thing very well. You must have already cut the top of this kind of a cake so that it becomes flat, and some part would be burnt out over here. You remove that, all that you would do. So to increase the product, so what do we want to do? We want to increase the productivity of the cake making process, and we also want to eliminate defects and uneven surfaces. So what are the operations involved in the cake making? So prepare the batter, fill the mold with batter, take it to the baking oven, getting it baked, and then removing the cake from the mold. After you remove it, there are these cracks that we saw which need to be removed, and then you decorate the cake so that it appears like a good cake, a bazari cake. So if we want to now label these functions, these operations, so preparation, what does preparation involve? Preparation involves measuring each ingredient and then mixing all ingredients. Measuring is a providing function, so measurement, whereas mixing all the ingredients is a productive function. Are you able to see the difference between the two?
Yes, sir.
Then after that preparation is done, you do the filling. So for that, again, there are multiple steps. You first grease, then pour the batter. You first grease the mold and then you pour the batter. Greasing the mold is a providing function, whereas pouring the batter into it is a productive function, because the shape that the batter takes at the end of this function is what will be visible or what will be evident even at the end of the process. So it becomes a productive function. Similarly, you list down all these functions. You notice there is one corrective function here, which is slice out the uneven surface of the cakes. Removing function is a transport function. Then baking is supporting function, and so on. So there are multiple functions here. And notice, baking a cake baking is not a productive function the way it is modeled here. The baking is a two-step process, measurements and heat, and they are two different functions. Okay. You put all these functions in different quadrants, and you see that this removing does not add any value, but it takes a lot of time. Do you agree that you have a mold in which your cake is there, even though you had greased it earlier? Now when you want to pull it out, it gives you a headache. Have you experienced this?
Yes, sir.
So this is the function that we want to improve upon. So what do? we say that, okay, okay. So it says two functions, this one and this one, baking and removing. These two functions can be trimmed. So first, because of the high cost and high functional significance, we look at, can this baking activity be given to some other function? So what are the other operations happening? Preparation. So when you're preparing, can you bake the same material simultaneously? No. Decoration, low cost, but also low value. Filling or transporting. If you want to trim the baking function, this is a very, very key function. You would want to allocate the function of heating and giving that time for baking to one of these other functions, preferably to a function in this quadrant, because you want to enhance the functional significance of all the functions in your system. So let us see what happens. We know that a supporting function can be trimmed if the operation required during the supporting function is trimmed, the supported operation is changed so that it does not require the support now, or the supported operation performs the supporting function itself, or the analyzed supporting function is transferred to the preceding or subsequent operation. We use the rule D. We say the heat, heating the cake in the oven, we would want to replace it by doing this, not by placing it in one place, but by during transportation. Have you seen such pizza stations, baking stations? Anyone who's not seen? If you have not seen, then I would say just go to a Domino's kitchen once, and you will see that there are such baking stations. So while the system is still moving, you're putting different toppings on it, and then the pizza gets formed, pizza gets prepared. So the second function that we identified for trimming was separate the cake from the mold. So an operation with a transport function can be trimmed there by using 4 rules, which we already discussed earlier also. What we are saying is that that we need to ensure that either the need to transport is eliminated or something is done so that this stress can be trimmed. We say that, okay, I will trim it by transferring the function to either a preceding or subsequent operation. How do we do this? I could have these kind of molds. Have you seen such molds?
Yes, sir.
What happens after the cake is baked? So you already grease the walls. You already would grease the base. After the baking has been done, you just open this clip. As the clip opens, the diameter, so you see there is an overlap. There's an overlap of metal there. As soon as the clip opens, the diameter of the mold increases, and you can immediately pull the cake, which is sitting on this particular plate, out of the system. Yeah. Any questions? So we've eliminated 2 functions. We've trimmed 2 functions in this cake baking example. Any function? Any questions?
So in that 4 quadrant, in the 4 quadrants, sir, I feel that in fact decoration takes a lot of time and money in baking. In fact.
Yeah. So again, you may use one particular formula, and you may say that, okay, in this quadrant, I want to put the decoration, the cost as high.
Yes, sir.
So then how do you trim decoration? For example, when I was talking about pizza, I said that you would put the toppings of the pizza while it is being transported, instead of putting it in a static place. So what happens if you loaded the decoration function onto a transport function? You've loaded a supporting function, a providing function onto a transport function. Okay.
Yes.
Anything else? So